Through the first 5 weeks of the NFL season, I'm sitting here asking myself, just how good is this Washington Commanders offense? And if you really take a look at the numbers and what's really important, they might actually have the best offense in the entire league. Let's take a look. First off, good to see y'all. I'm Josh Taylor, and I'm back from my little hiatus of just being busy with work and traveling and stuff like that. But as always, hit that subscribe button and like if you enjoy the video. And we're going to talk about the Washington Commanders offense and why there's an argument that they have the best offense in the league. Now, comment below what you think of the offense so far. Have they exceeded expectations? Yes. And who has been the biggest addition to the team? Jayden Daniels. And I'm going to take a look at some numbers and show you why the argument is valid. Now, of course, we have to start with Jayden Daniels, but we've also added a ton of new pieces to this offense in the draft and then also in free agency. The offensive line has been well over exceeded what we thought we would see from this offensive line. They actually came in at number 9 through the first 5 weeks in PFF's rankings of offensive line in the NFL, which in my opinion, I had them as a bottom 5, maybe bottom 6 or 7 coming into the league coming into the season because we didn't really know what to expect. Now, we still have some things going on at left tackle. We've been playing both Lucas and Brandon Coleman, that third-round pick, and it's actually worked out really well. You don't really see that happening too much, but both are playing at a high level right now. Then you add Nick Allegretti to the left guard spot, who's been on fire. You know, he's playing with the Kansas City Chiefs. He played through these big games, but he's had a great start to the season. And then in my opinion, Tyler Biadasz has been the best, not one of, but the best center in the league this year so far, and it shows up on tape. This guy, you want to talk about the run game and why it's working so well, is guys like Tyler Biadasz at that center spot who are just really mauling and setting the tone, especially with a lot of these zone runs to the A gap and the B gap, or on both sides, A gap to the left and then A gap to the right. You see some pull fronts with him. You see a lot of different things with Tyler Biadasz and Nick Allegretti. I really like what Coach Bobby has done with those two guys at the left guard and center spot. You see a lot of great pull schemes in the run game that's worked out a lot. And then, of course, you have Sam Cosmi, the guy that got paid, and he shows you why. He's having fun now. He's doing front flips down the field. He is just laying guys out and making his presence known, and I love it. And you know a name that we haven't heard this season? Andrew Wiley. No one's talking about him. That's great. That's what I wanted. We haven't heard his name popped up. We haven't seen like all these penalties and stuff like that. That seems to have just gone away magically. But the offensive line is on fire. And then you add some other guys, like I said, in free agency. You add Austin Eckler, who people said was washed. And he said, no, I'm back. I'm here to prove a point. And even with missing one game with a concussion, the rushing offense is one of the best in the league. And then you add Zach Ertz. And I told y'all before the season started, do not sleep on Zach Ertz. He's going to be a very reliable target. And he's made some big catches. And he's put up some stats already so far this season. Then you add Olamide Zaccheaus. You have a bunch of other guys. Luke McCaffrey has one of, if not the best separation percentage in the NFL right now. And soon enough, he'll come out and really blossom. I'm calling him a little cub right now. I think eventually he'll turn into this lion. And he's only been a wide receiver for 2 years. He's still learning the position, and he's already running routes at a very high rate. The separation is there. The route running is crisp. He's making some big catches too. We still need to see a little bit more production, but it's coming. Like I said, Olamide Zaccheaus has exceeded expectations, really turned into one of those reliable targets for Jayden as well. And then you add in Noah Brown, who kind of came in late, had to really learn things. And then Terry's going to Terry, of course. And B-Rob's been running with his hair on fire. There's just so many good things for this Washington Commanders offense. And before I pull up the numbers of certain things, like I said, the offense has been off to a shocking start, but also an historic start. Washington has scored 30-plus points in 3 consecutive games for the 8th time in franchise history and the first time since 2005. And I don't know about y'all, but 2005, I want to say I was in 5th grade. That was a long time ago. I'm 31 now. I know I don't look like it. I appreciate it. Washington is the first team since 1970 to score 150-plus points in their first 5 games while starting a rookie QB. Ever. That's not a sentence continued. That was it. That was the end of the sentence. Now, also, Washington has won 2 consecutive games by 20 or more points for the first time since 1997. Insane. And I'm going to talk about Jayden again, all of his mind-blowing stats. But another one that really surprised me. Did you know that Washington has the highest rate of drives to reach the red zone in the entire NFL? 58.7% of drives reach the red zone. 58.7. Second is San Francisco with 47.9. So we are 11% higher than the second team in the league. That is mind-blowing. Now, I do want to talk about Jayden because he's obviously won many, if almost all. I think he's only, I think there's only one he hasn't gotten yet. Rookie of the weeks or for the entire league. And this guy is not just saying, hey, I might be rookie of the year. He's making a legit case for MVP. So let's take a look at some numbers for Jayden Daniels and why he's been so impressive so far and just what he's excelling at. Now, I love when I'm watching a prime time game, the Chiefs versus the Saints, and this graphic pops up. Jayden Daniels on the season, 77% completion percentage, 1,135 passing yards, and a 4-2 touchdown interception ratio, 300 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. And then you see at the bottom there, he's the first in the NFL history with 1,000 plus 250 in the first 5 games. So 1,000 passing yards and 250 rushing yards in the first 5 games. And by the way, you want to talk about just this season, not just ever. There's only 2 quarterbacks in the league right now that have both over 1,000 passing yards and over 200 rushing yards. One's Jayden Daniels, and of course, the second one is Lamar Jackson, who has 1,206 passing yards, 363 rushing yards, which is bonkers. Lamar is awesome. Now, Jayden Daniels also has the most rushing yards by a QB in the first 5 games of their career. Number 4 was Steve Young with 233 yards. RG3 back in 2012 had 241. Bobby Douglas had 247 for the Bears. And Jayden Daniels has 300 yards. So it's not like he did it by like 2 or 3. It's a substantial amount. 300 rushing yards in the first 5 games of his career. He is the only one to ever do that. So the numbers back it up. And you want to talk about, oh, Josh, what about under pressure? How's Jayden? Through 5 weeks, he is second in the league with passer rating under pressure. Number 1, Joe Burrow, 121.4, another LSU guy. And then Jayden Daniels at 110.8. CJ Stroud is third with 102.5 passer ratings. The numbers back up the success and why so many people are talking about Jayden Daniels. Now, something you might have seen throughout this season so far, and you're like, Josh, what the heck is this? Well, I love these charts by people like Football Insights on X. You can find them at FBall_insights. They do a lot of great charts like this. PFF does too. Cowboy Computer, whatever his name is, Computer Cowboy does the same thing as well. There is a lot of good charts out there this season that really break things down for you. But you're probably like, Josh, what is EPA? I keep hearing about this EPA thing. Washington's been really good at EPA. What is it? So I know what's going on. EPA is expected points added. And it's definitely calculated differently depending on what you're talking about. So I'll show you Jayden Daniels, and then I'll also show you as a whole team. So what this is saying for Jayden Daniels, this is there's a formula that goes into offensive line play, how well your offensive line is. Of course, drops by your wide receivers and stuff like that. Where you start your drives, certain situations, stuff like that really go into this. But we're taking a look at quarterback EPA per play leaders so far this season. They're saying, hey, this is what we thought you were going to do, and you exceeded it by this many points. And of course, Jayden Daniels is number 1 in the league right now because we didn't really expect him to have this. You look at the offensive line, you look at the offensive weapons, people are like, oh, they need to go get Ayuk, they need to go do this. Maybe Austin Eckler's wash. Is the running game going to be enough? They took all that into consideration and said with that, he has well exceeded all expectations in the EPA, and he is thriving in an extremely high level above Josh Allen, who, lost all these people on defense, lost Stephon Diggs, lost Gabe Davis. There's just a lot of moving pieces, some offensive linemen, just a lot going on there. And then you have the same with Joe Flacco. Of course, they didn't expect him to do anything. Joe Burrow, what he had to go through really to start the season with Higgins and Jamar Chase and injuries and such, offensive line play. So there's just a lot that goes into it. But when it comes down to it, Jayden Daniels is number one. Now, talking about more EPA, I love this chart here because it really shows you when they're facing zone coverage and when they're facing man. So, this is quarterbacks in the league, whether they're facing man or zone coverage, and how well they exceed. Right now, Jayden Daniels is second in the league when it comes to EPA versus man. What he was expected to, or how he was expected to perform against man coverage, and what he's doing right now. CJ Stroud off the charts in man. He needs to kind of, if I'm playing against CJ Stroud, I'm playing zone, obviously. But Jayden Daniels is second in the league with EPA versus man and number one in EPA versus zone. And if you watch the games, if you break down the tape, something I'm going to do soon, I have to, because I'm scouting it for my job and I'm looking at these games. There's so many things I see. But when you watch the tape and you see the zone plays, Jayden does a great job of just seeing where those zones are. Guys like Austin Eckler can get into the zones. Guys like Ertz, these veterans who know how to sit in these zones, and same with Terry. It helps when you have really good, offensive weapons that are smart and know how to find these zones and stuff like that. But Jayden Daniels does a great job of finding those open men, splitting safeties. We've seen it on some deep throw where he's like using his eyes, he's using his head, or he's scrambling out to the outside, but he's scrambling to throw, not always scrambling to run. Second in the league versus man, and first in the league in EPA versus zone. That is insane. Now let's get a little bit more detailed, not just man and zone, but single high safety and two high safety. And for those that don't know, single high safety, it can be a couple of different things, but usually it's going to be cover one. Now it could always be someone drops or someone, joins him in the backfield, but this is just single high safety. This is like cover one robber, cover one rat, cover one blitz. Single high safety up top by himself. Jayden Daniels thrives against that. He is second in the league versus two high, which can be a lot of things. Once again, it can be cover two. It can be cover four if you're playing quarters and your corners drop. It can be cover six, which is half two, half four on one side. There's a lot of things you can do with two high. Mostly going to be zone. So the numbers I showed you before talking about zone and man really translates to this chart as well of single high safety and two high safety. So you have Lamar Jackson, number one in the league versus two high safeties, which is what that's telling me is they know how to manipulate those safeties. Like I said, really split it. Whether if, cover two, your two safeties are kind of drifting off apart, cover four and quarters, like I said, they're going up, and then your corners are going with them, and they're just playing quarters all the way up. Now, in cover two, like I said, you have those splits, and I've seen that a couple times on tape where Jayden is hitting that middle of the field. Or if it's cover four, you're able to find that open spot a little bit lower in those quarters. You can't really throw it at a certain spot. Sometimes you can throw it over in those corner routes on the outside against cover four, but you see it on tape where he's able to manipulate the safeties and find those open throwing windows and find the open guys. And we've seen that deep ball a good bit already this season, but he's also number one in the league when it's single high safety. So if you're playing against him defensively, what do you do? Honestly, I don't know. We saw the Browns bring pressure with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and he just sidestepped them and made JOK miss, and it ended up being a big run. So if you're a defense, you're really looking at Jayden Daniels and these numbers like, what can we do to really stop him? And no one's really figured it out yet. And I talk about tight window throws, and we've seen it a couple times as well. There's a couple times like, wow, how is he able to find those? There was a touchdown in the back of the end zone. I remember I'm like, if he's able to consistently make these kind of throws, I think it was against the Cardinals, where he's able to consistently make these kind of throws, he can be extremely dangerous. And we see tight window percentage. Jayden Daniels is fourth in the league? Right there with Lamar, CJ Stroud, Pat Mahomes, Jayden Daniels, kind of close with Anthony Richardson, who, he's been out a little bit as well. So I'm kind of leaning towards Jayden regardless. But tight window throw percentage, he's fourth in the league. Now, tight window throw open rate. So they're saying, hey, this is a tight window. This is a contested catch. Tight window could be two different guys, like right in the middle, or it could be like he needs to drop it over the back shoulder, like what we saw with De'Ami Brown, how he just kind of laid it over there and just dropped it in the breadbasket in that touchdown last week. He is first in the league with tight window throw open rate. These numbers are just astounding. Like, he should not be this good already. And this is why the offense is performing as well as it is. And we can take a look at the offense as a whole. It's not just Jayden Daniels. Now, we know the defense kind of started out rough, but the last two games, it has been really good. This chart back in week 3, Washington was at the bottom defensively. But offensively as a whole, talking about EPA, just how they were expected to perform and how they're performing right now, Washington is clearly the best offense in the league compared to what was expected of them. Now you're like, okay, Josh, expectations were low. That might not mean everything, but you'd be surprised. I'm going to show y'all some numbers that might actually shock a lot of y'all. Now, when it comes to just passing, we already know that EPA-wise, Washington is at the top. But this is also passing and rushing efficiency in 2024. Dropback EPA and rush EPA per play. This reminds me of that old game back on The Price is Right. That little hiker guy, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Washington is right there at the top. Like, we won. We won The Price is Right. These numbers, it's not just the passing game. It is a well-balanced, well-oiled machine that teams cannot stop right now. It is B-Rob running the rock. It's Austin Eckler being that change of pace guy, that guy that can do that one cut and get upfield. And he's having the longest run since like Adrian Peterson's run. That is what we needed out of this running game. Both of those guys. And then Jeremy McNichols, whether he's lighting up a linebacker and pass protection or he's finding the end zone himself. It is a deep backfield back there. And then, of course, you have to add in Jayden Daniels running the ball as well. We saw those numbers. It is staggering how impressive this offense has been all season. The numbers say they are number one. But when I started the video, I told you, if you look at what's most important, Washington is the best offense in the league, and I'm going to show you why. All right, so you want to talk about what's most important in the league. It's about scoring points. You score more points than the other team, guess what? There's never been a team in NFL history that has scored more points than the other team and lost. I know, it's mind-blowing. Washington has scored 155 points this season. Second, the Baltimore Ravens with 147, who we play this weekend, by the way. Points per game, Washington's averaging 31 points per game. Baltimore is averaging 29.4. But I told y'all, that's the most important thing. It comes down to points. You want to talk about total yards? And I know we kind of had a slow start week 1 against Tampa. I was there. I was feeling kind of down after that. I'm back up. We are back up now. Washington is 4th in the league with total yards. They're technically tied for 3rd with 1,963. Not far behind the San Francisco 49ers, who don't have Christian McCaffrey. And the Baltimore Ravens do have Lamar. They have Isaiah Likely, my boy King Henry, of course. They have so many weapons. They're not far behind. Yards per game, we're getting up there. It's climbing. Once again, 292.6. We are tied for 4th. Passing, we're getting there. It's not at the top 3, top 4, top 5, 1,071, but we are not far behind a lot of these teams. I think if week 1 would have gone a little bit better, we would have gone way up in those charts. But when you have a just dominating rushing attack like we do, and like Baltimore does, they have 1,056 rushing yards, which is nuts already with Lamar, Justice Hill, King Henry, like everybody's eating in the run game. We have 892, which is 2nd in the league. Once again, we're not too far behind Baltimore. They're just well above everybody else. But it helps out so much when you have a rushing attack that you can't load the box. You can't play too conservative. It's you just have to kind of read how the game's going. And as a defensive coordinator, like, we got to stop the run, and we got to worry about Jayden running, and we got to worry about him throwing the ball, because both are working at a high level right now. And you got to give credit to Cliff Kingsbury. He's been in his bag with his play calling. So you can make the argument that Washington not only has the best offense in the league, like over-expected, like, oh, we thought Washington was going to be pretty good. We knew Jayden was going to be good. We didn't know he's going to be this good. So, of course, we are exceeding expectations. We have the highest EPA in just about everything. But when you look at the numbers, rushing, total yards, we're up there. But you cannot deny when it comes down to points, Washington has scored the most points in the league through 5 weeks with 155. Now, will that change this week after we, face Baltimore? Maybe we jump them in a few things. Maybe we go down. Who knows? But nonetheless, Washington's off to an historic start, not only in the franchise, but in the entire league with how Jayden Daniels is performing and how well we're running the ball. And, we're, like I said, we didn't have Eckler for a game. B-Rob was banged up on his knee. He still found the end zone 2 times. It didn't matter. You have to be impressed with how this offense has been performing, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. I know the tape's going to get out there. Teams are going to look and see things, but there's so much you have to watch for and so much you have to defend. This isn't just a simple college offense. This is a dynamic and well-balanced offense in the league. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoy what you watched, and like I said, drop your comments on the offense below, and I will be back with another video soon. Peace.